Welcome to Event Explorer. On today's episode, we venture into the unique and inspiring world of maker fairs, a global phenomenon that brings people together through hands-on activities and collaborative innovation. In a time when so much of our interaction is digital, maker events stand out as places where people of all ages can learn, create, and connect in meaningful ways. From tinkering with cutting-edge tech to exploring traditional crafts, these events invite everyone to roll up their sleeves and engage directly with the creative process. Our guest, Dale Dougherty, is the founder of Make Magazine and the creator of the first Maker Faire in 2006. He has been at the forefront of this movement, creating spaces where curiosity and ingenuity thrive. With over 140 annual Maker Fairs worldwide, from Tokyo to Rome to the San Francisco Bay, over 7 million people have experienced the joy of hands-on collaboration because of Dale. Yet, for Dale, the true impact lies in the lives transformed and the creative sparks that inspire new generations of makers. Stay tuned as we explore the incredible stories and lasting impact of the maker movement. And don't forget to subscribe, share, and leave us a review to keep the spirit of making alive and thriving. Now let's welcome Dale Dougherty to Event Explorer. Welcome, Dale Dougherty, to the episode. Dale is the founder and CEO of Make Media and a true pioneer of the maker movement. He launched Make Magazine and the first ever Maker Faire in 2006, igniting a global community of creators and innovators. Today, he joins us to share the story of Maker Faire, how it all started, and how it became a worldwide movement that is transforming education and sparking new opportunities for makers everywhere. Dale, thank you so much for joining.
Nice to be here. Nice to talk to you about Maker Faire.
Yeah, I love that we can focus on the event side of it a little bit, but I know there's a bigger story, and you've been doing it a little while, and you know, what was it, something 7 million attendees over all your years. Happy for
Yeah, a little hard to count all that, but it's a lot of people.
Sure.
And I'm proud of that.
But even broader is the maker community, and your readers and your even you have podcast listeners. I know we kind of talk about Maker Faire starting in 2006. I imagine your interest in this community and building something where makers and scientists and tinkerers can communicate and work together started before that. Where did this kind of interest in makers begin?
It really started with the magazine, a print magazine, which is a little unusual these days. But next January it'll be 20 years of publishing Make Magazine, mostly as a quarterly, and I just saw people doing stuff, making things, and I thought other people would like to learn from them, and what I wanted to do, just like a cooking magazine has recipes, I wanted to put kind of project instructions in there. Like, this is how you build this. It's cool, but rather than just say it's cool and walk away, I'd like to show you underneath it, right? Of like, this is how you put it together. And, some people might actually build it, but you kind of acquire the knowledge of how to build things this way. And then when you have your own idea, you go, well, it's a little bit like that project and that one and this one. And I feel I'm able to do these things. And that was really the goal. It was to, and then Maker Faire kind of grew out of that because I was just meeting more of these people. And I thought, well, they got cool projects. They're fun to talk to. They know more in their area than the average person, but they're otherwise an ordinary person. And it could be your neighbor or a friend. You don't even know they do these things because they don't often, bring it out in public. So the idea for Maker Faire was just to invite people to bring their stuff out and share it with others, kind of like a science fair, art fair, but not have to put that label on it, and, a lot of hobbyists, a lot of people that don't really have a name for what they do. And I thought, one, that it would be fun to talk to these people, that their eyes light up when they're talking about their project, and you pick it up. You could be excited about their project even though you're not interested in that particular area. And then by really putting together a collection of all these different people, it kind of creates a vibe that's fairly unique, that people feel good being around curious people, intelligent people, um, people that do things. And, it's not like we're going to talk at you for a long time. We're going to show you stuff, right?
Hmm.
And you're going to ask questions. And that just creates a dynamic underneath this of you know, people you don't realize. And I think out of that, my goal is this invites you to participate, to make things and become a maker, because you see what other people are doing. You say, I can do that too.
Sure. Yeah, this isn't a festival where people are, coming to consume necessarily. They are
Right.
they are coming to participate.
Yeah.
How did you kind of establish that at first? What did you want the fair in that 2006, 2007 early
Yeah.
days? What did you want it to be, or
Well,
what was
in
the
my
setup?
head, it was to create the conversation,
Okay.
just in some ways, put the thing you have on the table, stand behind and talk to people who ask questions. But it wasn't meant to be a selling show. And I don't mind that people sell it. And often it comes out that people say, "Hey, that's cool. Could I buy it?" And they go, "I never thought of making it for sale." But so it happens. But the real thing was just to have the allow someone to explore their interests, and be able to talk to someone. And I think the thing I learned was a lot of these folks, you might say, are kind of shy, sometimes a little introverted, but when they're talking about their project, they have a certain degree of showmanship. They have a degree of outward energy that I call enthusiasm,
Certainly.
that is just great, and appeals to people of all ages. And that's the one thing I think in designing the event, we decided early on we wanted to create a family event rather than like a geek convention or, something that was especially nerdy. And someone said to me at the recent Maker Faire we did about 2 weekends ago, this is a nerdy event, but it's not just nerds who are here, right? And that's exactly what I wanted. I wanted everybody to feel comfortable, feel like they could pick something up, that you didn't have to be a type of person to
Sure.
enjoy this.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. You have to be curious, and
Yeah,
you kind of
open.
want to get your hands dirty,
Yeah,
making something,
yeah,
or even just admiring craftspeople. I think that's a big thing
exactly,
that people
exactly.
love to go see.
And I
Um,
think there's so
yeah.
many different kinds of making. That's what I think blows people away. Like and for me, what's worked so well in the fairs, we kind of put an open call out and say, hey, bring your stuff, and they tell us what to do. I thought initially we'd have to curate this pretty heavily, but people sort of understood the event, and what we have coming in is pretty great. And there's very little to like put aside and say that's not interesting. And uh, and so there's a lot of variety to it. A lot of people, and I could not have thought myself like I want that project, like I want to find that person doing that. Instead, it's like people just bring stuff, and I go, wow, that's amazing. Even from your description, I had no idea that that's what it would be. Right.
So early on, who were some of these, or what were the areas at least that came to you wanting to be part of Maker?
Well, part of it, we were lucky, I think, and fortunate to be in the Bay Area. There
Mhm.
was a Burning Man community and a lot of kind of interactive art and big stuff that that has no real place. I mean, you bring it out the desert once a year for Burning Man, but like an art car, a big decorated, Mad Max like vehicle.
Sure. Yeah, we've seen them. They're
Um,
cool.
yeah, and so, but most people don't get to see them, out of Burning
Sure.
Man.
Yeah,
So
I've
I
only
wanted,
in pictures myself. Yeah,
yeah.
so I can imagine,
So
and hearing the story behind them is extra cool.
yeah, and the people, and so it's a different context for them. So I felt initially when I went around and talked to people about the event, I mean, they didn't know what Maker Faire was. They didn't really know what Maker was. They might have heard of the magazine. It did help to have the magazine. But for the most part, I thought in the Bay Area people were kind and they said, yeah, that sounds fun. And they showed up. They brought their stuff, and that brought other people in. And I think we worked kind of intentionally at the beginning. to invite like traditional craftspeople, like lace makers, and one of my favorites was the Bay Area Small Engine Model Association, and they'd build like 1 horsepower engines, and they're mostly old people, right? But they were thrilled that someone else was interested in
Mhm.
what they do, and what they do is cool. It's like it moves, it makes noise, and so I think it was putting together different things like that, which for a generation that is growing up online, there's a lot of stuff they haven't seen in person,
Agreed.
and and they don't know how it works, and then they're curious, and then overlaid to this, there was a lot of what I'd call today maker tools or technology, 3D printing, drones, electronics, these microcontrollers and things, which were new to a lot of people, and a lot of but what I think Maker Faire showed, and on magazine too, really, is what you can do with them. It wasn't like, hey, here's a really cool thing, a cool tool. It was really, here's things people built with them, and and most of them, I think, had this theme of interacting with people. So in addition to interacting with the person who made it, the
Mhm.
thing itself is designed. One of the favorite ones that we had a kit on this, and it's so simple, but it's called the uh, geez, I just forgot the name of it, but it is a little box, and it just has a lever on it, and you turn it on, and it opens up a lid, and it turns itself off, right? And and there was a version of this at Orlando Maker Faire that I really loved, and it's just a bigger box than normal. Had a little, kind of like a puppet kind of box, thing, but it had a button. It said, "Don't press the button." Of course, you press the button,
Sure.
and this skull comes out, animatronic skull comes out, and says, "I told you not to press the button." And I mean, you'd sit there and press it all day long, right? This is just,
Yeah.
and so there's just fun stuff like that,
Well,
just comes out
there's
of people's
There's a lot
minds.
of there's so much value there, I think, obviously in the educational realm, there we have one store, I think, near me that I could go buy a microcontroller or if
Yeah,
you're lucky, you have one. And I live in the Detroit area. We're kind of
yeah,
synonymous with making things.
yeah,
If I wanted to
absolutely.
make a prototype for something, where would I go? Who would I show it to? Who would I talk to about this?
Yeah,
And I think even the generation you're saying that are most of these older people, there was a lot more collaboration. The internet
yeah,
forums were down at the hardware store where you'd say, "Jim, I'm having a
yeah,
problem with this. Come on
absolutely.
over and fix it with
But
me."
right, so kind of in parallel to the maker fairs, and um, we've been big supporters of the idea of maker spaces, and you have
Mhm.
several in your area, and these are
True,
meant to
true.
be, because you're working in physical things, and behind this, I think there's a deep insight that we really learn best from other people. I mean, directly from other people. We don't, you know, and things like YouTube help us a lot,
Mhm.
because we can actually watch someone do something and try to do it ourselves. But I always kind of thought when someone shows you how to use something like a drill press or a bandsaw, and then they say, "Okay, now you do it," right? It it and they watch you do it, right? And they want to be safe and everything else, but they're giving you a little bit of advice, or here's how to do welding. It it's it's in a class of things that we learn from other people directly. And
Sure.
I think that still is really valuable. Is I think a lot of people who previous generation were a maker, they learned from their parents
Mhm.
or they learned from a family friend, but it's a pretty narrow circle of people, right? And you're lucky if your parents didn't do that, you didn't learn it. And so what's I think happening today is it's more peer learning than it is, previous generation teaching the younger generation how to do it. It's just I can find someone else in my community at a makerspace who knows how to do this, and they're willing to show me how to do it.
Sure, and we need a place to show it off, or we need a place to make new connections. So the
Yeah,
fair helps serve that purpose. From
yeah,
2006, so it's almost we're going to be at 20 years now of festivals. Now we've grown. I saw the stats. I mean, they're amazing. Millions of people that have come to these. There's now Maker Fairs, is it 140 countries or something that I was reading?
Yeah, I know that kind of there's at least 140 fairs. Last
Okay.
weekend, it was in Maker Faire Rome, and there's Maker Faire Hanover in Germany. Maker Faire Tokyo is one of my favorites. So we have quite a good number of them. Around 2010, uh, I was we just getting a lot of requests for, hey, could you do Maker Faire in Seattle or Detroit or something like that? Detroit was one of the ones we actually worked on with the Henry Ford Museum and brought it there. You know, but we came up with a licensing program and wrote a playbook of how to produce a community Maker Faire. And that's why we have 140 for the most part. There's some larger ones, but there's lots of like school or community fairs
Hmm.
that happen in small towns. And I swear, I had this thought after our most recent Maker Faire Bay Area, Mare Island in Vallejo. We had 27,000 people. It was just a great event.
Yeah.
But I felt like every town in America, every town, every city in the world should have a Maker Faire and bring these kind of creative people. I mean, we're kind of living in a time also where there's just so much negativity and turmoil and things, and to bring creative people together, um, and for adults to feel like kids, and for kids to feel like the world has lots of possibilities. It's just a darn good thing, and we
Hmm.
need
Hmm.
more of
So as someone, who may find this, that is looking to start their own Maker Faire, and they can get the playbook from you.
yeah,
What
yeah.
are those kind of core principles that you've added
Well,
to the playbook?
I think the interesting thing is it's not very much about the logistics of putting on an
Sure.
event. And I would say most of the people that do a community event are amateurs in event production,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And that's might be a high school gymnasium or something like that. But it's community organizing is the core principle. It's
There you
like
go.
you have to go out and find people. You have to talk to them, and you're lucky if you have a maker space, but you don't want to just go and find the nerds, right? You want to find all the different flavors of people that are out there making things and invite them to participate. And I think the more you do that outreach, the better the event is. It's more inclusive and welcoming to lots of different styles of making, and therefore lots of different types of people in the community as well.
Very
You know,
cool.
like
What?
like
Oh yeah.
at the Maker Faire in Vallejo, we had lowriders, which is a whole community of people that modify their cars, and they were real happy to sit by their cars and talk to people with the hood up on the engine, showing the engine, and some of the hydraulic lifting and stuff. It's just, it's great.
And I think people that work in those feel, in the making of things, like to show them off. Like what I know there's some huge spectacles this year, and there were some on stage shows that really kind of put a lot of theatrics into it.
Yeah.
What were some kind of highlights from this year from Mar Island that you enjoyed?
Yeah. Well, we had kind of a first. Let me just describe. Mare Island is a historic naval shipyard, and so it's right on the water. The setting for everything, and there's big cranes that are looming over everybody, and the buildings are industrial, and one of the buildings is called the Foundry, and it's just 3 stories, kind of with panes of glass all around it. They used to build submarines in there, and so it just has ghosts. It's just like you walk in there and you feel like, oh, people used to do stuff here. And we put a stage in there this year, and we had all kinds of things. We had Mario the Maker Magician, is a young man that's grown out of kind of the maker stuff, and he does a terrific um, magic show of things he's made. He's made his props, and he often talks to the kids about how to make stuff and that they should do that, and that that you can be inspired to make stuff. So he had a really fun show each of the 3 days that we ran the fair, and then another on Saturday we had Crunch Labs, which is very popular YouTube channel and programming. We had Science Bob do a couple of explosions, and Mark Rober made a surprise appearance to the delight of everyone. And so it, uh, it was kind of a new dimension of the fair. We've also had historically Diet Coke and Mentos, which are these fountains, and the performance by Epi Bird, and they did their performance each day underneath one of the cranes on site.
I mean, just so much fun. It's that you'll be hands on, and then you'll kind of see these people that are so impassioned about making
Yeah.
things. That's got to be infectious.
So that's what I really we try to design it for being hands-on, and the kind of thing where you go up and ask questions, and it's okay to touch something, or we might have a big Lego area and people are building, but you have some Lego master builders doing stuff. So you kind of see that adults take this seriously, even though it's playful, and I think that's a dimension of the fair and everything that I think is needed more in our. It's play, right?
Hmm.
It's you know uh, you enjoy it for what it is. You get lost in it, and you feel like you can do anything, and even if it fails, it doesn't work, you just start over or do something else. So it's that's kind of the
Yeah.
thing I want, that is a kind of a through line in terms of what we do.
The international aspect of is really cool and unique. Have you found kind of that there's a common language between these makers all around the world, or
I think
did
so.
do the fairs
It's
bring
an
their own culture to it?
yeah, I think so. And there's uh it's a form of expression. So, it's kind of rooted in things like culture. For instance, in Japan and Maker Faire Tokyo, I've said, all the robots have costumes. They're like samurais, or they're, other sumo wrestlers. They're not just gears and and motors. They're they do that. So yeah, I think it does. And I did not go to Maker Faire Rome, but two of my editors did. And you see a lot of interest in design in Rome. A lot of uh, I remember early on, before we did Maker Faire Rome, I went there to give a talk, and I spoke in English, and I just told them about Maker and that kind of thing. And afterwards, I had this Italian man come up to me and he goes, "We're makers," shaking his head, like, this is who we are. Like, it was like, you know, in their way, they started it all.
Sure, and they
Like,
the
and
Italians in general, the
it's so
Michelangelo, and
right,
yeah.
right, bridges and
And
viaduct,
perhaps
you
they
know,
know. I mean, yeah, they're kind of these dirty words of geek and nerd, and I
yeah,
mean, tinkerer and things like that.
yeah,
You've brought this kind of formalness to it, or this
yeah,
you've exposed it to the public, and now they're not going away, right?
yeah, yeah, and I think it's something where people can decide what that means for themselves, and it's I'm kind of proud also. It's sort of not a job title, it's not a profession,
Sure.
it's not necessarily a field. Um, it is just a capability, and it's expressed in different ways.
Yeah, and as I'm trying to think of the middle schools and the high schools. The shop class is kind of going away. When does a
Yeah.
kid get a chance to pick up a soldering iron?
Exactly. So that's why we tried to bring maker spaces back, and I think we've been recently, up through COVID, very successful at getting
Yeah,
this into schools, and particularly, four-year colleges have had the money to do it often through alumni and things, and students value it, so they've begun to put it there. But COVID kind of closed a lot of those spaces, and
yeah.
we had a little bit of a brain drain of teachers retiring and things that had been doing it. So there's some need to keep pushing on that. But there's a greater need now than ever.
Yeah,
Kids
yeah.
are bored in school. They don't get to do real things. And I think the answer is kids should be doing projects. They should come up with ideas for projects, and you should foster that. And at any age, they can build stuff. and the tools are there for them. So, and also the community is there for them. Both the maker
Yeah.
community and the broader community. There are people that know things that I think can be connected as mentors in other roles.
For the layperson who doesn't consider who's interested in being a maker, or maybe they have a kid that has been like ours, is taking apart the clock radio that we gave him, or like
Yeah,
there's something there. How should they approach a maker fair? How should they just sign up and go
yeah.
and be
Just
curious?
go. You don't have to study for it. uh, but I what I've always found from the parent side is that they're surprised that kids like to do this. That given the opportunity to tinker, to like take something apart or to, you know, use hand tools or craft tools, um, they get interested in it right away, like without there being a reward or anything at the end of it. It's just they're interested, right? What can I do here? And so I think for one thing is for parents, it's like this is stuff you can do at home. You can um, you can build your own set of tools. They don't have to be 3D printers. But kids like to whack at things. They like to cut things. They like to put things together. They're interested in things like glue and, paint and all of that. And you can layer it. They don't all have to be STEM oriented projects. In fact, some of those are kind of boring. It's get your kids into playing more freely. And I think today parents are really concerned about screen time and what their kids are playing games or just spending time. And I think this is goes back to one of the messages of Maker Faire was that we want kids to see themselves as producers, not just consumers. And how do you do that? Some of it is, I believe that it's there, it's in them, it's in their bones. So you just kind of have to expose them to that, and especially when they see parents doing something interesting, they may not join you, but they're watching you, they're paying attention, and it means something. And it may take time before that clicks in, but it's important that you try to do things as well.
Certainly. So at 20 years, looking on that important date, and then into the future, do you have plans to you're just going to continue to grow? Are there things you want to accomplish, or you want the fair to grow into, or to be able to
Yeah,
even
well,
expand?
I mean, I should kind of mention that during COVID we were closed, and so I've been this new version at Mare Island is about it's our second year of doing it, so I've been kind of focused on rebuilding the fair back to where it was and getting both the support of the maker community and the broader community involved. And I just really felt like this year in October that we accomplished that. Like it really worked, like we were back. We were as good as ever, and people really enjoyed the show. So that's part of it. Sustaining it is kind of the focus now. It's like, well, there's a next generation of kids. One of the most satisfying things doing it, this was our 16th event in Maker Faire Bay Area, so consecutively, but we had that gap of a couple of years. Is having young kids come up and say, "Oh, I went to Maker Faire as a kid, and this is what I do now," or "I'm here at Maker Faire with my project," or, it really influenced my direction in life because I wanted to do this, and that's really what I think deep down hope the most, that kids see other people doing these things, and it opens their minds to what's possible. That other people do this stuff, and some people make a living at it. So, that I would say the event works really well. What it is, the spread of it and the sustainability of it, um, is still a challenge. It is complex event to produce, um, and it's even more complex to make money at it enough to keep doing it. So, those are the things that I have to work on,
Sure.
going forward.
Sure. Well, you have a heck of a foundation that you've laid.
Yeah.
Like you're saying, yeah, the millions of attendees tuning in from around the world, when possibly what's just as important is that one kid who gets the spark that day, that
Yeah.
visits the Maker Faire, or with their dad or with their buddy, and they come up with an idea, and that idea iterates and creates this new thing, and then a couple years down the road, they've got a booth at the Maker Faire
Yep.
themselves, and they're spreading the word that
Yeah.
way.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, thank you so much. This is, just really illuminating, and it gives me a lot of hope for this, next generation. I to the point of, it's Maker Faire, but it's in this universe of Maker magazine, all the forums and things online that are people have people talking, the maker spaces in everybody's individual town, so they
Yeah.
can get a taste of that flavor. But then the big coup de grace, the big showcase is attending a Maker Faire, and seeing these people really show off in their element. It's just got to be so cool and so unique.
Yeah, it is. And, I think one of the themes from it is, that others might learn from events is how can events be more participatory, right? How do you get your attendees involved in it and engaged in it and being a part of it and not the spectator, sitting watching the
Sure.
performer on stage, or, just celebrity based events, but really just activities, things that people get to do. And I think that's kind of one of the key things that we've done.
Every event needs a maker space at it, and to keep people
Yeah,
engaged.
that's
Or
true.
yeah, the more you become in contact with something tactile, haptic kind of feedback, the more you make
Right.
a memory, the more you create
Absolutely. Yeah.
a special moment for yourself. Well, thank you so much, Dale, for joining. I really appreciate it. And look forward to watching the growth, and my interest is sparked to attend even one here in Detroit. So I'm going to definitely look out for that.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Dale. Bye. Thanks for joining us on this journey into the world of Maker Faire and the transformative power of the maker movement. Today, Dale Dougherty reminded us that these events aren't just about showcasing cool projects, but they're about creating a space where people of all backgrounds can come together, collaborate, and share their enthusiasm for making things. From art cars and interactive displays to inspiring shows featuring guests like Mark Rober and Adam Savage, Maker Fairs are all about hands-on exploration and the joy of learning by doing. We also heard how this movement has reshaped education and sparked a sense of possibility, encouraging kids and adults alike to become creators, not just consumers. As Dale shared, the real magic is in seeing someone who was inspired once by a Maker Faire return to exhibit their own project, bringing the journey full circle. If this episode sparked your curiosity, be sure to subscribe to Event Explorer and share it with others who love exploring creativity and innovation. Let's keep this spirit alive, one maker at a time. Until next time, happy exploring.